Hello Go Farms, welcome to another We're Not Trying video. What's the most expensive herb to farm? Well, that should be an easy thing to answer, but is it really? So on my server, there are a couple of herbs, and I want to stress my server fairly well. This server has herbs that are going for a decent amount of gold right now. Talking to a friend of mine, these herbs may still be going for around the same price, but other cheap herbs are actually going for more of a price than what they are on my server. So for example, he was talking about Rising Glory. That's going for 60 gold per unit on his server. So that means any route that I farm should yield Rising Glory, because Rising Glory is really easy to obtain. Or is it? If it's going for 60 gold per unit, then something must be up there, right? Well, there's a lot of things to factor in when farming, and I want to try to explain things the best I can for you guys. This is to mainly help those who are in need of some decent farms, not necessarily good farms, but some decent farms. You know, maybe the farm they thought was good is no longer good, or maybe they just aren't farming it right, or maybe they're farming the wrong location, or you know, there's just several things to factor in. So today we're going to go over how to determine what farm you should be farming. And this is the method I use on a daily, and it's really hard for me to explain because I never really thought about explaining it before. So basically what I do is I will look at prices on the auction house, then I will gather up some locations, figure out where the best location is to farm them, then I'll go out to that location and start farming. Well, unfortunately, not everybody has the luxury as I do to memorize a lot of these farms and locations. I remember just about every farm and location there are for World of Warcraft. It's been a while since I've actually farmed and played, so I do forget a good sum of these farms, but once I get to farming again and start remembering all of these farms, then it will be a breeze for me. And I don't mean to be boasting or anything about that, but just trying to explain where I come from, basically. So how I find these farms and these locations and prices and all of this and that is through Wildhead. Wildhead is not accurate by all means, so I don't recommend using it if you are looking for specific drop rates or anything like that. Though it is really good for showing locations of items, or maybe some loot tables that have items that you're after. I wouldn't necessarily go off of the drop chances of these items, because there's been so many changes to the loot tables and changes to the drop rates and all of this and that. So I wouldn't necessarily go off of any drop chances by all means, or drop rates. But what I would do is I would use Wildhead to your advantage, like I do. How I use Wildhead to my advantage is I'll type in a material, so let's say Goldthorn for example, and it will come up with all the locations that spawn Goldthorn. So these locations, if I remember right, there's only 5. You got Feralis, you got Duskwood, you've got Arathi Highlands, you got the Hinterlands, and there is one more if I remember correctly. Maybe there are only 4, but I know you got Feralis, Duskwood, the Hinterlands, and Arathi Highlands. Oh, and you got the Cape of Stranglethorn. So there's 5 locations that spawn Goldthorn. There could be more, but I could be wrong. I only remember 5, so bear with me. 6 if you want to count the dungeon, but I don't like counting dungeons for anything because I don't run dungeons. Either way, you start off with Wildhead for this said material you are looking for, and you basically find the item that you want for the price you want. So, for example, you go to your auction house. If you have a resource amount, you can hop on that, and you will see. So I'm doing herbs. Let me step back a little bit. I'm doing herbs, so I'm trying to find the most expensive route for herbs, and I believe that to be Goldthorn, because I know I passed Goldthorn, but let's take a look at these herbs. So that doesn't count because you can't get that anymore. Fireleaf, nobody farms it because nobody knows about it, so nobody's going to be buying it. You got Wildvine, which is expensive because it drops from Purple Lotus or some mobs, so that makes sense for it to be expensive. But the only problem is you can't strictly farm this. It's not like you can go and find a Wildvine node, you know. So let's keep moving. We got Blood Thistle, which that is a Night Elf thing, or a Blood Night Elf thing, or Blood Elf thing, sorry. Then you got Ghost Mushroom. Ghost Mushrooms, they are not necessarily farmable because you can't continuously farm them without having to stop. So let's keep moving on. Same thing with Dragon's Teeth. You can't really continuously farm those unless you create a route for Sungrass, which Sungrass is going for quite a bit right now, so it could be a pretty good farm. But let's keep looking. You got Fade Leaf, which I'm farming right now. Fade Leaf is going for 81 gold per unit. Let's take a look at that a little bit more. So it's going for quite a bit. Then let's keep scrolling. I actually am going to have to buy out the Goldthorn because that is really cheap. So Goldthorn is going for 120 now. But what else am I getting from this farm? Let's see. We got Khadgar's Whiskers. We got Goldthorn, which is a spot. We got Blindweed, which is pretty expensive. We got Fade Leaf, which we already come across, and then we got, I think there's one more. Rising Glory is going for 43 gold on my server, so that's pretty expensive in itself. I think that's all the herbs. Either way, you are going to use Wildhead to your advantage to find these farms. So, because I already know where to farm Goldthorn, I don't need to go to Wildhead. However, if I needed to find a farm for something, I'd go to Wildhead, type it in, look at all the chances it drops, look to see which ones have the most mobs, if it's a mob-driven material, or I would go to, I'd also look at, like, number of nodes are in a given area, so, and if they are close enough to each other that I can even make a route. So, for example, this is a really good spot for Goldthorn. You know, if you are a low level, you can just run up and down here, and it will continuously respawn for you. I mean, you can do that as level 60 as well, but the only problem with that is you have flying. You know, who wants to run around on a level 60? You know, like, who wants to use a ground mount on a level 60? Not very many people. But you kind of want to make sure you can make a route with these nodes as well. That's how I make my routes, is I check. So Dustwellow Marsh, there is Goldthorn, but it's really far spread apart and it's just really messy. I've also tried farming here and the herbs don't spawn within the 5 minutes that they usually spawn in other zones. So that is a little challenging. Um, but yeah, hopefully I'm getting my point across. Use Wildhead to your advantage, but don't let it consume your income or like don't let it consume what you think about the game. You know, if you go to a farming location and it says it has a 100% drop chance and you go and farm it or go try to farm it and it doesn't have a 100% drop chance, don't get upset with it because Wildhead's not an accurate website. I have learned that throughout the many years of using it and testing with it and all of that, but honestly, that's how I learn most of my farms, but I do also remember most of the farms that I look up on Wildhead. During my streams, feel free to ask me of farming locations for certain materials, as I can probably almost on the spot give you a rough idea or location for where to farm something. I'd love to do a live stream with that or something, but that's down the road. Anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.